up, guys? So today we got my 3-year review of the vehicle, and I'm going to be doing the 3-year review from the 5 things I hate about my Focus RS. So the first thing is the suspension. Undoubtedly, no one ever brings up one of these videos without mentioning the suspension. In my opinion, the suspension is not the best from factory. They nailed the whole test drive experience. Ford nailed it. They give you something that's super stiff, super responsive. And when you're going for a test drive, and buying a performance vehicle, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that is super quick and responsive. You get feedback from the road, and Ford nailed it. However, when you start driving this car daily and you go around on the streets and you're just trying to have a nice, normal, leisurely drive, you don't really want the suspension to be super stiff, I think Ford could have done a little bit better on the dampening. They could have made the stiff button when you go into track mode be just as stiff as it is now, but the normal mode should have been much, much softer. The other option a lot of people do is coilovers. KW makes an awesome set of coilovers that supposedly makes the ride more tame, and it's an active suspension, so it keeps the active components. However, it's super pricey. It's almost $3,000 last time I checked the price. But just know that if this is going to be your daily and you're coming from a full-blown race car, then this is going to be a great vehicle. But if you want something that's going to ride smooth like a Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, and then also be rowdy with the flip of a switch, this is not the car. The next thing I want to talk about is the cheaping out on the interior, the fit and finish. At the end of the day, this is a RS2 package, and this is a $42,000, almost $43,000 car if you manage to get it at MSRP. And a lot of people, especially the first go around when they were still manufacturing them up until 2019, most people bought this thing brand new, and they paid MSRP for it or more. And the seats, they squeak because they're so close to the plastic on the factory fittings. There's tons of rattles all over the car from the suspension being so much stiffer than anything else that this base Focus was designed for. Something as simple as a base Focus SE actually has the air pressure gauges inside of this little heads-up display that's right in front of me, and it shows you that you have 35 psi. They don't even have that in this Focus RS, the fully loaded version. None of those features are here. And the seats are very comfortable if you're not too large of a person. I weigh 190 pounds, and I fit in here perfectly fine. Once the seats get broken in, they feel great. In my opinion, I could go for a long road trip in these as long as I were to get the suspension handled and sorted out. So if this is going to be your daily, the next thing that, in my opinion, is kind of Ford shouldn't have cut out was in a Focus ST, you actually get a spare tire in the back. I understand this is a performance car and that most people aren't going to be road tripping it per se, but at the end of the day, it's still a Ford Focus. The people who bought this as their sports car actually need it to be a utility vehicle, to actually give you enough room for 2 kids in the back or 2 adults in the back comfortably with luggage. And you realistically just can't take this car on a road trip. If you take this car on a road trip and let's say you have a tire blowout, all you have is that fix-a-flat kit that they put in the back. That fix-a-flat kit is not gonna make it far. And if you actually have a blowout, you hit a pothole and these 19-inch super low profile tires, you're gonna be SOL, because there's no way a little fix-a-flat kit with the pump is actually gonna get you up and running again. The next thing that bothers me is I track the car. You guys know this. I've been tracking the car since about a year into buying it, after I did Adrenaline Academy, and on track, a lot of the gauges, especially the factory gauges if you are not tuned, they don't really give you much feedback. Unless you have an access port, you can't tell what your actual coolant temperatures are, because that gauge in the middle is a legitimately fake gauge. It ranges all the way from 190 degrees all the way to 250 degrees coolant temperature, and the needle just stays dead center in the middle. However, the oil gauge will read all the way up to 290, but that is a fake calculation. that's not actually calculating oil. If you go read the owner's manual, you will see that the Focus RS actually says in the manual that the oil is a calculated value based on the coolant temperature, what RPMs the car is at, and how long it stays at said RPM. And basically, that is a fake oil temperature gauge that you are seeing right here. And that drives me absolutely crazy. Ford, all they had to do was just stick in a actual temperature gauge for the oil, and then you would have all of the gauges that you need right across the top. And that pushes my buttons the wrong way. I absolutely hate it. Alright, so the last thing about this car that drives me absolutely crazy, and I left this one for last because to me, it's a really big one, especially if you're going to have this car as your daily car. But not only as your daily car, but as someone who's an enthusiast driver and, you know, is going to use this vehicle as it was intended to be used. It's how rare the vehicle is, and the fact that the 2016s and most of the 2017s have this head gasket recall. This head gasket recall has been an absolute fiasco. I've personally had my head gasket replaced 3 times on this vehicle. I've had my front main seal resealed 1 time, and this was all before I started racing the vehicle. These were just issues that came up, and the reason they come up, and I've asked around and I've talked to so many people, is this motor is not the exact same motor as the EcoBoost Mustang. It is slightly different. It's an open deck design. It was designed differently. It's laid out in the vehicle differently. Getting to components are different. And nobody really has any expertise. No Ford dealerships have expertise on how to work on this particular vehicle. I called multiple Ford dealerships and they're like, yeah, well, we've never really worked on the Focus RS before, but like, we can figure it out. As someone who owns this vehicle, that is not a really good feeling to me, that you're taking the vehicle into a dealership and they're gonna figure it out on your vehicle. So you're basically the test mule for their technician to go and learn how to fix your vehicle. And going in for a head gasket recall, which is basically them breaking the seal on the motor from factory and replacing pieces, and then having to worry constantly when I go on a road trip or something like that, hey, is my motor gonna blow up? Am I gonna like blow a head gasket, have coolant rushing everywhere? Is the motor gonna go pop? Anything like that. That drives me absolutely crazy. And if you plan on buying a Focus RS as a daily vehicle, I would just make sure you buy a vehicle that is post 2017 head gasket when they had gotten it fixed. You can go do a little bit of research on the forums and on Facebook groups and find out, based on the VIN number, which ones were and were not head gasket recall capable. And I would just buy a vehicle that never had an issue from the factory with the head gasket. In my opinion, that's the only way to ensure that the car has not been tampered with by a Ford dealership who has no idea what they were doing. I've seen horror stories across the Facebook forums with people trying to deal with getting them fixed, and I've seen others where people are so scared of getting the head gasket recall done that they just don't get it done, and they're like, well, I'm not having the issues. I'd rather just test the waters and hope it doesn't have an issue again. I hope you liked that video. This was just my top 5 grievances on the Focus RS. Again, I'm a really weird case, but I think a lot of people want to know about these weird issues that until you own the RS and have had it for 3 years, you don't really experience everything. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what other videos you want to see on the channel. So far, the Focus RS is staying with us. I haven't decided if I'm getting rid of it. I will have build updates on the M3 very soon, but I think I'm going to be starting to dial the Focus RS back and make it more into a daily vehicle. I know what all has been done to it, so I know how reliable it's going to be, and it's still a really fun, fast 4-door sedan that I can go on a road trip in if I want to. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.